before we're going to put the block on here, I do have this ARP thread chaser here. I'm just going to kind of hand screw it into the holes where I'm going to put the head bolts at. I'm just going to hand tighten it, make sure that, you know, when we put the head bolts down in here, we're not going to have any garbage that's going to get stuck. It's going to be a nice and easy installation, and I'll do this with all 10 holes. Then I'll put the cylinder head on top, and then we'll tighten it down. Alright, before we're going to put the block on here, I do have this ARP thread chaser here. I'm just going to kind of hand screw it into the holes where I'm going to put the head bolts at. I'm just going to hand tighten it, make sure that, you know, when we put the head bolts down in here, we're not going to have any garbage that's going to get stuck. It's going to be a nice and easy installation, and I'll do this with all 10 holes. Then I'll put the cylinder head on top, and then we'll tighten it down. This mark right here, it's just a little key, and that's pointing straight up. It's level with the what do you want to call it, the top of the block. That's how you know you're at TDC on this motor. I went ahead and set it to TDC, so when we put the head back on, I already know I'm there and I'm ready to set up my timing. I'm going to go ahead and pull off this old head gasket, because we're, you know, while you get it off, might as well put a new one on. Alright, now what I'm going to do before I put on the new head gasket is I'm going to come around with my little plastic razor blade and a cloth and just try to clean up some of this old grime that was around here. I want to show you guys something interesting before I put the new head gasket and head back on. Is look at the shape of the ND Miata piston. Such an interesting shape. There's not too many. I think is BBR the only one that makes an aftermarket piston? Or do they just make rods? I could be wrong. But yeah, interesting shape. I guess that's how they get that magical Sky Active compression. We're going to take our brand new Mazda OEM head gasket, put it into place. Made in China. Wow. Next, I'm going to come in here with the razor blade and some gasket remover and clean up all this RTV on the front engine cover and get that prepared. Alright, before we're going to put the block on here, I do have this ARP thread chaser here. I'm just going to kind of hand screw it into the holes where I'm going to put the head bolts at. I'm just going to hand tighten it, make sure that, you know, when we put the head bolts down in here, we're not going to have any garbage that's going to get stuck. It's going to be a nice and easy installation, and I'll do this with all 10 holes. Then I'll put the cylinder head on top, and then we'll tighten it down. Alright, next step, we're going to take some ARP lube and kind of just put it on the threads. Not too much, just a little bit. And we're going to drop it down in. We're not even going to hand tighten them yet. We're just going to lube and go. Alright, now that I got all my head studs in there and greased up at the bottom, I'm just going to hand tighten them with the little Allen key. Alright, next I'm going to take these little washers and put them over the top of the head bolts. I'll put a little grease on them. Now, everything is hand tightened, so we're going to go ahead and start torquing down. We're going to go from 30 to 50 to 70 foot-pound of torque We're going to start with 1, 2, then I believe it's 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just going to start with 30. Alright, let's get our intake, our new BBR intake camshaft out, ready to go. I'm going to put the sprockets back on the intake camshaft, or the intake and exhaust. Get them into place tonight. This little notch, I'm not sure. This little notch needs to line up with this little guy. Otherwise you're going to have problems. I got it lined up, I'm just going to kind of hand tighten it. Alright, now that's ready to be torqued. Set that to the side. Let's get our exhaust out as well. The exhaust is a little more simpler to put on. The exhaust has a little notch too. Alright, before we put our camshafts back on, let's get our rocker arms back on. I'm going to put a little assembly lube. Alright, now that we got our camshafts in there, we're going to go ahead and lay on our cam caps. Just kind of put them in there with our hands. Remember, it starts, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and take exhaust as far as the caps go. Kind of set them on there. Okay, now I got my focus silicone sealant in there. Now I can lay it over the back. I'm going to start hand threading all the cam caps. Okay, to start off, we're going to start with a 53 inch-pounds, and we're going to go in the service manual order, starting with this guy here. Come on. Alright guys, I tightened everything down to 53 inch-pounds foot of torque. And now we're going to tighten it down to 97 inch foot-pounds, starting with this guy. Right, next we're going to put our oil control valve back in. This just slides into here. You have your little black 8mm. And we're going to tighten it down. Oh, just bump the camera. We're going to tighten it down to 90 inch-pound. Alright, next up we're going to do the oil squirters. These top four right here are going to be 75 inch-pound, and the bottom two we're going to do 100 inch-pound. We'll start just by hand tightening down some screws to get them in place. Alright, we're going to start working on the timing. This curved timing chain guide just kind of hangs on the upper dowel right here. The timing chain tensioner will go down to the bottom. For right now, we're just going to let it hang. Straight timing chain guide. Which goes, where does this go? Does this go right here? Right here, I believe. Did I get that upside down? Yes, I do. Okay, setting the timing on these Miata engines. You'll notice a couple marks on the timing chain. You've got a couple, let me turn this light off. You've got a couple orange marks, and you have a, need that light on down there. You have a yellow mark on the chain. The yellow mark goes on the crankshaft pulley. It's hard to see with this angle, but there's a little tiny dot on the right when you're in TDC. This is the TDC pin when this is sticking straight up. That means you're at top dead center. There's a little mark to the right of that. That's where the yellow goes. Now up here you have, get some better lighting. Come on, light. Goodness. You have a mark here. That's going to be, after you set your timing, that's going to be perpendicular with the top of the cylinder head. You have these little marks and a little notch up here. Those are going to be kind of pointed at an angle. You also have a little notch here on the sprocket and a little notch here. That should be perpendicular on the exhaust cam sprocket with the cylinder head as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slip on the other timing chain guide to put a little bit more tension on the chain. And then I'm going to use my 24mm wrench. I actually had to take off the oil squirters to get to the camshafts because you're going to need to be able to rotate them ever so slightly to get the timing chain into place. So let me try and set up the camera again on the tripod and show you how to do that. Alright, I got the timing all set up. As you can see here, we have our orange marks lined up with our pins and arrows. Our notch marks on the side of the cam sprocket are lined up with the cylinder head. Our yellow mark on the timing chain is lined up properly with the TDC key mark, and the yellow mark, or I'm sorry, the little notch next to the TDC mark. I'm sorry I didn't film the process, guys. It's a little difficult because you have to like dart around. You know, you're moving one chain link over here. Just don't get frustrated with it. Get your wrench. I mostly use the exhaust camshaft to release tension and move a link over. Just do one link at a time until everything's lined up. Then when I got everything lined up, then I put my tensioner on. Come on, focus. Now that everything's lined up, everything is in place. Now I can pull the pin on the tensioner, and the tensioner is ready. Now the tensioner will auto prime once the motor is started. After it's started for a few seconds, it will build up tension on that timing chain, and timing is set. Now we're ready to move forward. Alright, now that we got our timing all set up, I'm going to start the prep for the front engine cover. Use a little more CRC gasket remover, spray this on there. Wait about 30 seconds, come back. And then we'll start to go through with the plastic razor blade again. See, if you're lucky, it just comes off in big strips. Alright, I got the old RTV silicone off. Now we're going to go ahead and put on the new Mazda RTV and get this guy put on. What I like to typically do is I like to walk it over to the car and test fit how I'm going to put it on, so there's no like hang-ups that I'm surprised about. I'm not rubbing silicone all over the place, so I get a nice easy little one on. I got my laptop set up over here showing me the bead guide because there are some areas where they want you to be thicker at around, specifically like the 2 bolts here and the, where else? These 2 guys here. Alright, let's get started. First, we're going to go with the little circles. Try not to bump anything coming in here. You don't want to put silicone on anything it's not supposed to be on. Alright, now off screen I got my laptop here telling me the order of the bolts and how they go in and how they're going to be torqued down. I'm just going to follow that by finger threading, hand tightening at first, and then torque.